Hi family, welcome back to ladensercrochets. If you're new to the channel, you're welcome. My name is Liz. Kindly subscribe and join the family. In this tutorial, we're going to be making a sweater top using the granny square and the granny stitch. I hope you're going to enjoy this tutorial. If you do, kindly leave a like, a comment, and share the video. Grab your materials and let's get to it. I have so many whips sitting around and I've decided that I'll be converting this one into a sweater top. I've had this whip for over 2 years now. I think I did this in 2022 when I was learning how to do the granny square. I'm going to get 2 hooks. One will be a large one small, a 4.5mm crochet hook and a 2.5mm crochet hook. The 4.5 will be for working the main part of the sweater and the 2.5 will be for working the ribbing for the wrist, the waistband and the neckline. Then we need a pair of scissors, stitch markers, a darning needle and a measuring tape. I'll use these 3 colors for illustration purposes since I've already done the 2 panels that need to be done, and I'm going to start with the gray yarn. Take the yarn and begin with a magic ring. Next we're going to chain 2, and the chain 2 is going to act as our first double crochet. So chain 2, 1 and 2, yarn over, go back into that magic ring with 2 double crochets, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2. Then yarn over, insert your hook into the ring, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2. And those are the 2 double crochets together with the chain 2, that makes 3 double crochets. Now chain 2, then we go back into the ring with 3 double crochets, that is 1, 2 and 3. Chain 2 again, 1 and 2, into the same ring, the same circle, 3 double crochets, 1, 2 and 3. Then we're going to chain 2 again, then back into the same circle with 3 more double crochets. So in total we should have 4 clusters of 3 double crochets each. So 3 double crochets, we have the 4, then we're going to chain 2 after fastening that. So just fasten to close up that space, then chain 2. Then we're going to go on top of the chain 2 and do a slip stitch. As I do that, I bring that shorter end on top and slip stitch to complete round 1 of our granny square. Then chain 2, that's our first double crochet, and turn. We're going to begin into that chain 2 space. We place 2 double crochets so that together with the chain 2 we're going to get 3 double crochet clusters. Then chain 2 and go back into that same chain 2 gap and place 3 more double crochets. So in each of the corners we're going to be placing a 3 double crochet shell, that is 3 double crochets, chain 2, 3 more double crochets. We have 4 corners. This is 1, 2, 3 and 4, and each of those corners will be getting a shell. Then we chain 1 and go straight into the next corner with 3 double crochets, chain 2, 3 more double crochets into that same chain 2 gap, that is 1, 2 and 3. Then we chain 1. As we head to the next gap, we're going to just chain 1. Then into the gap we place 3 double crochets and a chain 2 plus another 3 double crochets. Next we chain 2 and we're going to go into the last gap and place the shell, that is 3 double crochets, chain 2, another 3 double crochets. So chain 2, place 3 more double crochets into that last gap, and that will be our last cluster of 3 double crochets. Then to complete round 2, row 2 that is, we chain 1 and slip stitch on top of the chain 2. And we're done with row 2. Chain 2 and turn to begin row 3. Into that gap we place 2 double crochets. Any gap that is not in the corner just gets 3 double crochets without the chain 2. Then chain 1, go into the corner gap and place the 3 double crochets, followed by a chain 2, followed by 3 more double crochets. Next we're going to chain 1, and we have that gap that is not in the corner, so that gets only 3 double crochets. 1, 2 and 3. Chain 1 again and skip over to the corner with 3 double crochets. Chain 2, 3 more double crochets. So now we repeat this pattern to the end of row 3. Wherever there is a gap that is not at the corner, we only place 3 double crochets. The only part where we chain 2 is the point at the corner. All the other parts we only chain 1. So I'm going to go on, complete my row 3 that is, and then I'll show you how to work row 4. At the end, we're going to chain 1 and slip stitch on top of the chain 2 to complete that row. So that's the end of row 3, and this is what we have. Next, we're going to chain 2 and turn to begin row 4. Again, we begin into that gap with 2 double crochets together with the chain 2. That will make 3 double crochets. Chain 1 and go straight into the corner with a 3 double crochet cluster shell, that is 3 double crochets, chain 2, so chain 2 and 3 more double crochets into the same chain 2 gap. So now this is how we're going to work our rows. We're just going to be repeating the shell on the corners with two chains, but then anywhere else that is not in the corner we just chain 1 and then place only 3 double crochets. So I'll keep going to the end of row 4. I'm at the end of row 4. I've just chained 1, then I'll do the slip stitch. And then at this point, I'll show you how to change the colors. If you want to work with just one color, you can just keep going. So chain 1 and cut off the yarn. If you want to change your color, you can change at whatever row you want. It doesn't have to be after row 4. So you cut off the yarn, pull through and fasten, then turn your work just like we've been turning. And then you're going to grab the next color and do a slip knot. Once you have the slip knot, get the square at the point where you've just cut off the yarn. Into that chain 1 gap, do a slip stitch to connect the yarn, and then chain 2. Back into that chain 1 gap with 2 double crochets to make a cluster of 3 double crochets. Chain 1. Into the next gap, place 3 double crochets. Chain 1. And that gets us to the corner where we're going to place 3 double crochets, chain 2 and 3 more double crochets. And then we just repeat this row just like we've been working the other rows. Now I'll just keep going with these rows until I get to half of my bust measurements. So the width of the square should be half of your bust measurement. You can do this while stretching a little bit, but if you want your sweater to be free size, do that without stretching out. So I'll be measuring without stretching out my work. Now I'll just chain one and do the 3 double crochet cluster into the chain one gap, and then keep going to the end, and then I'll do the rows till I get to that measurement that I need. My bust measurement is 36 divided by 2, that should be 18. So once I get to a width of 18 inches, that's when I'm going to stop. After 6 rows, this is what we have, and I'm just going to show you how to measure that width from one end to the other. Right now I'm at about 8 inches, and I'm just going to keep going until I get to the 18 inches that I just mentioned. After 16 rows, this is what I have, and I'm just going to confirm the measurements from one end to the next. And as you can see, I'm slightly above 18 inches, and I can definitely work with that. So now you need to make another panel completely identical to this one, that is with the same measurements, same 16 rows. If you work 15, you're going to work 15. If you work 20 rows, you're going to work another 20 rows. Take one of your panels and place it in such a way that the side on the bottom is the wrong side and the one on top is the right side. Now get the second panel and place it on top of the first panel such that you have the two right sides facing each other. The one on top is the wrong side, the one at the bottom is the wrong side. I hope that is making sense. Next, we're going to join the two panels at the shoulder parts in order to create the neckline. And the size of your neckline is equivalent to your head circumference. So you need to measure your head circumference. Mine is 22 divided by 2, that will be 11 inches. So when I'm measuring in the middle of my panels, I should have 11 inches. Get a stitch marker and count 5 gaps from one corner, and then mark the 5th gap as you join the two panels together. Then you're going to get another stitch marker and count another 5 gaps from the other side, and then mark that 5th gap. So I'm placing my stitch marker on the 5th gap from the left side of my work. Then I'll get the measuring tape and take the measurement between the two stitch markers and see whether it will get me to 11 inches. It's at 9, and when I give it a little bit of a stretch, it gets me to 11, and I can work with that. So you need to make sure that the space that remains in the middle of your work is equivalent to your head circumference divided by 2. So 11 divided by 2, that's 22, and that's what I'm going for. So get your yarn and connect it at the beginning in the chain 2 gap on one of the corners. So just slip stitch and chain 1 back into that corner with a single crochet. We're going to go on top of the next double crochet and the double crochet on the other side. Connect the two with a single crochet. Go into the second double crochet and the second double crochet on the other side. Connect them with a single crochet. As I do that, I'm working over my end. The third double crochet and the third double crochet on the other side, single crochet. Then we get to the chain 1 gap. So insert your hook into the chain 1 gaps and connect them with a single crochet. Into the double crochets, do a single crochet. So we're just connecting the corresponding stitches. So the double crochets with the double crochets, the chain ones with the chain ones, until we get to the point where the stitch marker is. Our last stitch will be in that point where we have the stitch marker. So just pull it out and place a single crochet into that chain 1 gap. Then we're going to chain 1 and cut off the yarn. We're done with joining the shoulders on that one side. So then we're going to turn to the other side. Now this is what we have for that shoulder part. So just turn your work to the other side, reconnect the yarn on the corner part, and attach the corresponding stitches with single crochets, just like you've done on the other side. So now this is what I have after connecting the two sides of the shoulders. That's my neckline. We have our two panels joined on top. So now the next thing to do is do the sleeves. And for the sleeves, I'm going to work with the red yarn. I'll start with a slip knot. And then you need to make a chain that is equals to the size of to the length of your sleeve minus 2 inches. The 2 inches will be covered by the ribbon. I'm going to do a chain of 61. The chain that you do should be a multiple of 3 plus 1. So my multiple of 3 is 60 plus 1. That should be 61. So you can work 61, you can work 64, you can work 67, and so on. So I'll go on and complete the 61 chains for the sleeve. I have my chain ready, and you can take the measurement to confirm that you're getting the measurement that you're going for. And when I measure this from one end to the next, of course you measure without stretching, because length is always measured without stretching. And this is getting me to about 18 inches, and plus the 2 inches for the ribbon, that will be 20 inches. So now we're ready to begin row 1 of the sleeve. Hold the last chain that you've done and chain 2 more, then yarn over, insert your hook into that chain that you're holding, the 61st chain that I did, and place a double crochet together with the chain 2. That will be 2 double crochets, chain 1, and then after the chain 1 we're going to skip 2 chains, then place a double crochet into the third chain. So we are counting 1, 2, and into the third one place 2 double crochets, chain 1, yarn over and skip 2 chains, 1 and 2, work into the third with 2 double crochets, 1 and 2, chain 1, yarn over, skip 2 chains, work into the third with 2 double crochets, and then we're going to repeat this pattern to the end of row 1. As you come to the end, you should have 3 chains remaining. So once you chain 1, you're going to skip 2 and work into the last chain with 2 double crochets. And that's the end of row 1. To begin row 2, we chain 3. The chain 3 will act as a double crochet plus a chain 1 in between, then turn. And we skip over to the chain 1 gap and place 2 double crochets, 1 and 2, chain 1. Go into the next gap with 2 double crochets, chain 1. Into the next gap we place 2 double crochets, chain 1, 2 double crochets into the next, and then we repeat to the end. I'll meet you at the end of row 2 to show you how to complete the row. Place 2 double crochets into the last chain 2 gap, and at the end we have 2 double crochets remaining, so we chain 1 and we're going to go in between the 2 double crochets and place our last double crochets, our last double crochet, that is. And that's the end of row 2. Chain 2 to begin row 3, and then we're going to work a double crochet into that gap that is next to the chain 2 that we've done. Chain 1, skip over to the gap and place 2 double crochets, chain 1, place 2 double crochets into the next gap, and then repeat to the end. At the end I'll meet you there and show you how to complete row 3. Row 3 ends in the last gap where we just place the 2 double crochets. 1 and then the last one. And that's the end of row 3. We chain 3 to begin row 4. So as we begin the even rows, we chain 3. As we begin the odd rows, we chain 2. After that, we're going to skip over. As you can see, row 4 is the same as row 2. So we're going to skip over to the chain 2 gap and place 2 double crochets. Chain 1, 2 double crochets into the next gap. And then we just keep repeating to the end. When you get to the end, we're going to chain 2 and turn to begin row 5. And row 5 is going to be the same as row 3. So all the even rows are the same. All the odd rows are worked the same. And I'll just keep repeating row 2 and row 3 until I get to 18 inches in the width. I have the sleeve panel ready and I've done a total of 30 rows. When I fold these into 2, I get my sleeve. I'll get my measuring tape and measure these without stretching. It's 8 multiplied by 2, that's 16. When I give it a bit of a stretch, it gets me to 9, which is 9 multiplied by 2 equals to 18. Next, we're going to turn on the edge of the sleeve. At that point where we've ended, you need to begin with a chain 1. So we chain 1 and then we work on the edge where we've not been working. Like we've been working on the right hand side. So we're going to turn to that edge and work on the rows. And we're going to place 2 single crochets into each of the rows. So the reason for doing the single crochets is to ensure that when we join in the sleeve to the main part of the sweater, it becomes very easy. So into those rows, each of the rows is going to get 2 single crochets. So 1 and 2. We go on to the next double crochet row and place 2 single crochets, 2 single crochets into the next row, 2 single crochets in the row that follows. Then we're going to repeat this to the end. I'm in the last row and that will get 2 single crochets, then chain 1, and we're going to leave a long end for joining the sleeve to the other part of the sweater and then cut off the yarn. And this is what we have. So that point where we've done the single crochets is the part that goes to the armpits of the sweater. Now we need to do another panel identical to this for the other sleeve. So let me do that, then come back. I have my 2 sleeves ready and we're ready to join them to the sweater. So I'll just get my sweater and then I'm going to show you how to join the 2 sleeves. I'll show you how to join one of the sleeves and then I'll let you keep going and on the other side to join the second sleeve. So get your work like this, make sure that you're on the wrong side, then just turn it like that, just like I've done. Get one of the sleeves, fold it into 2 to determine the exact middle stitch. And since I had 30 rows, my exact middle stitch should be the 30th stitch. Get a stitch marker and mark that stitch. Then join it with the middle part of the shoulder part where we joined the first two panels of the sweater. So you need to join the middle part of the sleeve with the shoulder part. Then we're going to count stitches. So on one side I have 30 stitches on the sleeve, on the other side I have 30 stitches. So on the main part of the sweater, I'm going to count 30 stitches on either of the sides. So I don't have to count on this left hand side. I'll count on the right hand side, then I'll start joining and I'll join all the way down to the end of the sleeve. So right here I'm just counting the stitches, making sure that they are getting me to 30, and then I'll get my yarn and the hook and connect from the point where the dirty stitches begin, and I'll go all the way to the other side. You need to insert your hook onto the first stitch on the sleeve and the 30th stitch on the other side. It doesn't have to be 30th, it depends with the number of stitches that you have on your sleeve. Then join those 2 stitches with a single crochet. Then into the second stitch on the sleeve, I'm going to join it with the first double crochet on the other side. So you just need to join the corresponding stitches with single crochets, as simple as that. If it's a double crochet stitch, you join it with a single crochet stitch on this side. When you get to the chain 1 gap, do not skip it. Make sure that you join the chain 1 gap with a stitch on the sleeve. So right here, on the chain 1 gap, so I'm joining right there with a single crochet, and that will get me to the double crochet stitches. Join them, and I'll keep going all the way to the end of the sleeve. I'm in the last stitch, and I'm just going to place my last single crochet. Then I'll chain 1 and cut off the yarn, and that first sleeve is in place. Pull through and fasten, and this is what we have. So now you need to go to the other side and attach the other sleeve the same way we've done with this. Then after that, we're just going to turn our work like this, fold it into 2, make sure that you're still on the wrong side of your work, and then we're going to join the sleeves from the wrist area, and then we're going to go all the way to the bottom part of the sweater. So now I'm going to get a stitch marker and mark at those points where we have attached the sleeve, that is at the armpits. I'm just marking for the purposes of alignment. The stitches are corresponding each other, so you actually don't need to mark. You just need to make sure that you join the corresponding stitches. Now we're going to begin from that point. I'll get my yarn and reconnect it there, and then I'm going to join with single crochets all the way to the armpit using the yellow yarn, the red yarn that is, and then I'll change to yellow. So in the first stitch on this side and the first stitch on the other side, you need to insert your hook and pull up a loop to do a slip stitch. Then we're going to chain 1, and then we're going to go back into that stitch with a single crochet. Then the second stitch is the chain 2 gap, and in the chain 2 gap we're going to join the first chain with the first double crochet on the other side. I'm working over the ends. Then we're going to go back into the same chain 2 gap. There are 2 chains, so into the same chain 2 gap, go back in there and connect with the next double crochet, and that will get me onto the next stitch on this side, which will connect with this chain 1 gap on the other side. Then we get onto the chain 2 gap. The chain 2 gap is connected with the 2 double crochets on the other side of the sleeve. So insert your hook into the gap, go onto the first double crochet and connect with a single crochet. Go back into the same chain 2 gap, and then on top of the second double crochet and connect with a single crochet. Then we get into the stitch, and that stitch will be connected with the chain 1 gap on the other side. I hope you're getting the point. So now you need to connect the stitches like this until you get to the armpits. If you're working with the same color, you can connect until you get to the bottom part of the sweater. So now I'll just keep going, and I'll meet you once I get to the armpit part of the sweater. I'm just connecting the last stitches with the single crochet, and then after that I'll chain one and cut off the red yarn at that point, then pull through and fasten. Next, I'm going to attach the main part of the sweater, and I'm going to use the green yarn. So I'm just going to turn my work and begin from the bottom, then work towards the armpit part, attaching the corresponding stitches. So we're just going to get the corner stitches on each of the sides, and then get the yarn, connect it, and then attach at that point. Make sure that the corresponding stitches are attached with single crochets. Slip stitch the yarn on the first gap, chain one, go back into the chain two gap with a single crochet. Then we get to the double crochet stitches, and we're going to connect the corresponding double crochet stitches on either of the sides as we work over the end. Then the second double crochet stitches, the third double crochet stitches, we also connect them. Then we connect the chain one gaps and continue till you get to the armpit, and I'll meet you there. I'm in the last stitch where I'm connecting with a single crochet, and then I'll go into the last stitch that I did with the red yarn, and also do a single crochet into the same stitch, just to make sure that I do not have an opening at the armpits. Then chain one and cut off the yarn. Then we're going to pull the yarn through and fasten. I'll get the red and the green yarn, and I'm going to tie 2 knots at that point. Now I just want to make sure that my joining is continuous and there is no gap that is left in the armpits. So I'll do the 2 knots, and then after that I'll weave in the ends. The red end will go to the red side of the work. So I'll get the 2 ends of the red, put them through the darning needle, and then I'm going to weave them in on the side where we have the red yarn. One of my sleeves is in place, and therefore I'll just go to the other side and attach the other sleeve the same way I've done with this one. Now I'm going to do this off camera, and then I'll be back once my 2 sleeves are in place. I have my second sleeve done, and now we are ready to do the ribbon that will go to the wrists, the waist area, and the neckline of the sweater. So I'm going to show you how to do the ribbons. I'm using the yellow yarn and the 2.5mm crochet hook, and I'm going to begin with a slip knot. So make your slip knot, and this is standard. We're going to chain 10 for everyone. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. Then we're going to hold the 10th stitch and chain 1 more. Insert your hook into the 10th stitch and yarn over and grab a loop to get 2 loops on the hook, then work a single crochet, and we're going to place 1 single crochet into the next chain, 1 single crochet into the 3rd chain, then 1 single crochet into all the chains until we get a total of 10 single crochets in the first row. Chain 1 and turn to begin row 2. We're going to work in the back loops. Normally we would work in this stitch, but we're going to work on the loop that is at the back of the stitch, and we're going to place a single crochet into each of the back loops in row 2. The reason why we work the back loops is because we want the ribbon to be stretchy. So place 1 single crochet into each of the back loops till you get to the end of row 2. And at the end of row 2 you should have 10 single crochets. When you get to the end of row 2, you're going to chain 1 and turn to begin row 3, and we're going to work row 3 in the back loops just like we've done with row 2. So 1 single crochet into the back loop of each of the stitches, and this is the row that we're going to repeat. We're going to repeat row 2 until we get the length of the ribbon that we want. So just go on doing your your single crochet stitches in the back loop in every row, and I'll be back once I have the length of the ribbon that I want. I've done a total of 30 rows to get me a ribbon that fits on my wrists, as you can see. And now we're just going to connect the two ends of the ribbon to make a round. So chain 1 and turn. Now when we turn, we're going to work in the first stitch on both loops, then the first stitch on the other side, and then we're going to grab a loop and pull through to complete a slip stitch, then go into the second stitch in the both loops, do a slip stitch, go into the third stitch on both of the loops and complete a slip stitch, and we're going to do a total of 10 slip stitches that will join the 10 corresponding stitches to the end of this piece that we are doing. I've joined to the last stitch, and at the end I'm going to chain 1, and then I'm going to cut off the yarn but leave a long end that I'll use for joining this ribbon to the sleeve. So then I'll pull the yarn through and fasten, and this is my wristband. It fits perfectly onto my wrist, and so I'm going to do a second one for the other hand. I have the 2 wristbands ready, and next I'm going to do the waistband, and I'm going to start with the same 10 stitches, and then I've done a total of 100 rows for the waistband, and you need to make sure that it's something that fits onto your waist. My waist is 30 inches, and when I fold this into 2 and take the measurement, it's getting me to 13. When I give it a stretch, it's getting me to 16, which is 32, and I can work with an allowance of 2 inches. Then I'm just going to join the 2 sides just like I joined with the wristband, the 2 corresponding side, chain 1, bring the 2 ends together and join the 10 stitches with the slip stitch. Then after that, I'll show you how to work the ribbon for the neckline. Now for the neckline, it's going to have fewer stitches, so instead of starting with 10 stitches, we're going to start with 5. Make sure that your neckline ribbon is equal to your head circumference when it's slightly stretched. And as I mentioned earlier, my head circumference is 22, and this stretches to 11 when folded into 2. So when we double it, or when you multiply by 2, that will get me to 22 inches. I've done a total of 60 rows for the neckline ribbon, and I'm just going to join it the same way I've joined the other ribbon, joining the 5 corresponding stitches with a slip stitch, and then leaving an end for attaching the neckline to the neck part of the sweater. Once we have the 4 ribbons in place, it's time to join them to the main part of the sweater, and I'm just going to get my sweater, and then I'll illustrate to you how to attach at least 2 of them, then you'll be able to attach the rest. Let's begin with the waistband, and you need to make sure that you're on the wrong side of your sweater. Get the waistband and place it below your sweater like this. Then we're going to get stitch markers, and we're going to use them to connect the ribbon to the sweater. So on one of the corners of the ribbon, that will be connected to the corner part, to one corner of the sweater, just like this. Then we're going to get another stitch marker and mark the other end. Then we're going to fold our sweater like this, such that the 2 stitch markers are at the same point, and you're also folding the ribbon. Then we're going to get another stitch marker and mark at those 2 points. Then we're also going to mark the bottom part. This is what we have so far, and now we're going to join the ribbon. Now you just need to join in such a way that you're not skipping any stitch, but you're also making sure that you stretch out the ribbon so that it fits onto the sweater, because as you can see, the sweater is longer than the ribbon. I'm going to do that using my darning needle, and as I move along, I'll be stretching out my ribbon just to make sure that it corresponds perfectly with the sweater. So I'll begin in that first stitch. I'm going to go into that stitch twice just to secure that part. Then we work into the next row of the ribbon and get a stitch on the other side of the sweater. And this is a point where I say just watch and learn, or use your common sense and attach as perfectly as you can. I'll just keep going till I get all the way around that bottom part of the sweater. Then I'll be back. At this point, I'm done with the bottom ribbon, and I'm just going to do a knot at the end, and then after that I'll weave in that end that will remain and then cut off whatever remains. So just do the knot and then weave in the ends. Next, we're going to get the ribbon for the sleeve, and we're going to connect it the same way we've connected the bottom part at the 4 points. And then we're just going to start weaving it in place, making sure that you stretch out your work as you go, just to make sure that you're connected perfectly. So I'll just go on, attach all the ribbons for this side, for the other side of the sleeve, and then I'll also attach the ribbon on the neckline, and I'll be back once I'm done with all the ribbons. At this point, I'm done attaching all the ribbons, as you can see, and I'm done with my work. So thank you so much if you stuck around to the end of the tutorial. If you've enjoyed the tutorial, kindly leave a like, a comment, share, subscribe if you're not subscribed. And if you get to recreate this, kindly tag me on my social media pages and I'll be reposting your work. You know that you don't have to do with these colors. You can choose any other colors of your liking. See you in the next one.